Hi, welcome to the BI Demo Day. Today we are celebrating our fourth generation of, today we are celebrating the graduation of our fourth cohort of this Business Acceleration Academy. I'm Christian, Senior Business Developer here at BI.
And I'm Maria, a project specialist at BII. Over the last 11 weeks, we've had the pleasure of working with the 6 amazing startups that you're going to see pitch here today.
In the start of March, we kicked off with our bootcamp, where we invited tons of experts to come help the teams develop their plans. As we were just about to get started, but then of course the COVID-19 pandemic hit. So we had to completely convert and adapt the program into a virtual format.
Yeah, and that also affected how we are holding our demo day today. So usually we have a large event where we bring together the life science ecosystem and community. But since that has not been possible this time around, we are instead streaming live from a TV studio right here in Copenhagen. So what can you expect for the next couple of hours?
Thank you, Maria. You will see 6 pitches from 6 different amazing startups, covering fields as therapeutics, bioindustrials, and health tech. All companies are trying to make a change, make life quality better, for example, through real-time monitoring of patients, brittle bone disease, Parkinson's disease, and infertility. One of our startups also trying to solve climate change. Another one is trying to bring better colorant to the market. You will also get a chance to meet the startup who won the Acceleration Award last year.
Ooh, exciting. So as you can hear, the cohort we have with us today is quite diverse, and we really hope you'll enjoy their inspiring pitches. But before we kick off, we have invited our CEO, Jens Nielsen, to share some insights of what is going on at BII these days. Back to you, Christian.
Thank you very much, Maria. And hi, Jens.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you for being with us today. Jens, for people who don't know you, before you became the CEO of BI, you have a very, very long track record of being a professor, for example, at the Center for Biosustain out in DTU, Chalmers in Sweden. You've built numerous companies spinning out of academia, too many patents to talk about, and too many publications. We would love to sort of hear from you. During your career as a professor, you've gained tons of experience in commercializing science. We have a lot of entrepreneurs online right now, so could you maybe share a few pieces of advice for being a life science entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So taking innovation and entrepreneurship and building companies out of academic research can be quite challenging, because let's not forget that the primary objective of being a professor is to educate students. As it is at a university, what we are of course doing is that we are doing research-based education. Combining that with actually then beginning to identify some research problems that are relevant can, to some extent, be sometimes challenging. But what I think is important is that you, as a professor or academic researchers, ask yourself about, does the work that you do, does it have some relevance? Can it find some application? And this you do by engaging with other people, other stakeholders. This can be interacting with, for example, companies. I collaborated closely with companies throughout my research career. It can be engaging with clinical researchers. You begin to understand what are actually the needs for innovation in certain areas. And then you can begin to steer your research and define some research problems that are related to that. And then hopefully you can begin to find some new things that can innovate. I think in this process also one has to have a very open mind. Sometimes it's the surprising thing that actually can find an application. But if you have not first gone out and understood a little bit about what the need is, you will not be able to pick up on that. And then, of course, last thing is that you need to build a team that is top in class. So you need to find some good people to collaborate with.
Yeah, you mentioned team as one of the most important factors. So how would you define a great team?
So assembling a great team means that you have people that have complementary skills to you. Obviously, if you are a professor in academia, you need to find someone who comes with some business experience, someone who has the ability to look into business plans, develop and evaluate markets. When I started my companies, there was no BII to go to, so had to learn by doing, so to speak. But lucky-wise, I managed to identify and find some very good partners to work with. It's very important with the team, because you are going to end up spending a lot of hours together, and you are going to be confronted with a lot of challenges along the way. And so therefore you need to have someone that you really like to work together with, because you have to go through water and fire many times. And it's particularly, of course, in the hard times that where it's important that you have a good team building and function well together.
Very good. So another question is, our Demo Day is a biannual event, and since the last Demo Day back in November, a lot of stuff has happened in BI. I know because I worked there. Could you take us through some of the highlights?
Yeah, so maybe it's interesting. I mean, to look at what has BI done now in close to 2.5 years of existence, and it's really only about 1.5 years, because we opened the doors in November 18. But we just had a board meeting a little bit more than a week ago, where we made some decisions about granting new companies entering into our creation house several additional POC grants, new faculty into our faculty program. And combined with what was decided at that board meeting, as well as what we've done in the past, we've now given out more than 250 million Danish kroner into innovation in life science in Denmark. And I think that's quite an accomplishment. So we are really becoming this major Danish incubator for life science. Then it's been very nice to see that many of the BA companies, I mean, many of the companies that have gone through this excellent program here, have elevated and managed either to raise funding from other means, or have actually entered into our creation house and is expanding further. Then, of course, one thing I think we can also be very proud of is that the incubator and the whole environment with that is just not only physical frames to kind of operate in, but it's also the support from people like you and Maria, but the whole business development team is really helping the companies to expand. And so if you look at the whole BII team, which is still expanding, but it's a very strong team, and it's very much appreciated by the companies that come to BII, what it helps for them to build and to grow. And so I think we've set at the stage where BII is really ready to grow more.
Fantastic. That leads me to the last questions, which is basically what can we expect for BI in the future?
So originally it was planned that the Novo Nordisk Foundation would fund BII for 3 years, and so we're coming up to the end of that. But we have ongoing discussion that pursue the plans that were there originally to spin out BII as an independent foundation to support innovation in life science in Denmark and throughout Europe and the world as such. But we are working very actively on that process, so look out for good news on that. We are very active right now also in building partnerships. We are lining up partnerships with both corporates, but also different companies and service providers that can assist our startups even more, so they can advance. So this is something that we are really building and expanding on right now. And then maybe it's also worth mentioning that we will see 2 very excellent examples of it, but we are beginning to have an active plan to go into health tech. And we will see, as I said, 2 BAA companies in that space today, but we will probably see more of that in the future.
Exciting. Fantastic. Look forward to being a part of it. Thank you so much, Jens, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Maria, would you take us through the practicalities before we kick it off?
Of course. So the way this is going to go down today is each team is going to present for 7 minutes, followed by a 3-minute Q&A session. If you have questions for the teams while they are pitching, please post them on the message box in the bottom of your screens, and we'll make sure to bring them to the teams. But stay alert, because at the end, we're going to ask you to vote on your favorite team to win the Acceleration Award. So we are going to ask you to do that via an SMS, but we'll tell you more about that later, because right now we need to get started. And our first presenter is a bioindustrial company that is focusing on capturing, converting, and creating products out of CO2. Here is SecondCircle.
We are SecondCircle, and we help industry to transform emissions into business opportunities. We capture carbon, we convert it to useful products, and thereby create value. The world is facing climate change, and CO2 is a major contributor. Production of heat and power, production of cement, production of chemicals, and production of many other commodities is leading to a constant stream of CO2 emissions into the atmosphere. But customers are demanding change. And industry is feeling the pressure from their customers, but also is facing political measures such as CO2 taxes. So when we look at what kind of technologies are available to industry when they want to remove the CO2 they're emitting in their production. The easy way is to plant trees. However, this requires a lot of space, and also it does not show an immediate effect. It does not help to avoid financial incentives like carbon taxes. It is possible to implement directly at the production site carbon filters, which remove the carbon, but they require sensitive catalysts, and also they only capture the carbon, but they don't utilize it. Algae can use CO2 with the help of light. However, due to that light requirement, a lot of space is needed. The new generation of carbon capture uses microorganisms. The existing technologies using microorganisms, however, have major flaws. For example, they are mixing explosive gases, which is dangerous. There are logistic challenges when, for example, methane is produced, and also the operational costs can be very high due to the sterility requirements. So I have now showed you the evolution of carbon capture, and talking about evolution. This is 4.5 billion years ago. There was absolutely no oxygen in the atmosphere, high temperatures, and lots of CO2. High temperatures and lots of CO2, this is exactly where a bacterium was thriving. And this bacterium is the solution. It's a SecondCircle solution. In our process, this bacterium is converting CO2 at high temperatures. And the CO2 comes from industrial production sites. The process also requires hydrogen. And the hydrogen is produced from renewable energy sources at off-peak hours. And those emissions are then converted into new value. And we, for now, focus on acetate. Acetate is a bulk chemical with various applications. We are also producing cell biomass. Cell biomass is a valuable feed for animals or can be used as fertilizer. Long term, we have also made our bacterium genetically accessible, which means we are able to also produce other non-native compounds. Our process has some major advantages, some unique advantages, and this is the low-cost fermentation due to non-sterile conditions. Also, the cooling requirements are reduced. The conversion rates of the process are higher compared to existing processes. And also, with our process, there is the opportunity for low-cost recovery of the product. All this together leading to lower operational and capital expenditures. We have teamed up with a very exciting company called the Protein Brewery. The Protein Brewery is changing the way protein is produced. They are producing Fermotein, which is a sustainable, nutritional, and low-cost protein alternative. And we envision, with the Protein Brewery and SecondCircle together, to offer a zero-waste, zero-emission protein product.
In the new generation of carbon capture, there are competitors. We have listed 4 criteria to make a comparison with our technology possible. The 4 criteria is the following. Is the organism they apply genetic accessible? Can they produce non-native compounds? Is the process robust towards contamination, allowing them to produce under non-sterile condition? Is the process fixed to a certain location? And finally, do the process allow cheap and low-cost purification of the products? The first group of companies, that contains 5 companies in total, all using different organisms, different strategies, and producing different compounds. But the common denominators with these companies is that they ferment at low temperatures, below 37. One company is converting CO2 into methane at high temperatures. That is Electrokia. SecondCircle has a unique microorganism which we can genetically manipulate, making it produce non-native compounds. We have no requirements to sterility, and we are not fixed to a certain location. Our process at elevated temperature enables easy and low-cost purification of the products. The team behind SecondCircle is the 3 founders. We have been working together for more than 6 years, and we have brought forth different products within gas fermentation. We are, of course, constantly on the lookout for competences which could strengthen our team. Our history goes back to academic research, where we have built up quite unique and elaborate knowledge on thermophilic gas fermentation. Particular highlights is that we were able to make the organism genetic accessible. We have developed strains which tolerate low pH, thereby we can increase the product concentration, and we have scaled up our process to 40 liters. Of course, we have also established our company, SecondCircle, which were enrolled in the BII program. At BII, we reached out to companies, emitters of CO2, as well as development partners, and we have received very positive feedback. We have developed a commercialization strategy, and we have looked into the patenting landscape and found out that we have freedom to operate. The future for SecondCircle is to provide a more in-depth market segmentation, perform demonstration projects, as well as develop a proprietary reactor. In 2022, we have planned to establish our lab facilities, which will enable us to do pre-sales projects. This will, of course, lead to sales in 23 and in 24. We are SecondCircle. We capture carbon, we convert it into useful products, and thereby create value. We reach out to you. We hope you can help us with either funding or member of our advisory boards, or if you know of talented process engineers which could help us. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much. Fantastic, you guys have come so far. We have both questions coming in from online, and we also have a few questions to start you off with. So maybe the first one here. So hydrogen is, of course, an important source for you and in general in this business. We've seen many carbon capture projects failing because of the access to hydrogen. So how do you make sure that you can get access to something?
This is a very good point, but also we're really excited to have seen that recently big Danish companies have just announced a huge hydrogen production site that's going to be there. So I think we won't have a problem being limited in hydrogen in the future.
Yeah, okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we have a few questions here. Some are very similar to that, but someone asks here, what is the reactor design that you, sorry, not that, where does energy come from to create high temperature for organisms?
So the energy, you can say the organism itself creates energy. So normally when you have a normal fermentation, you need to cool it down. So that is also one of our benefits. We do not need cooling. Thereby we actually reduce our operating expenses.
Very good. Another question we have is what your plan is in terms of the bioreactor design and partnerships. Mm-hmm. So what are you going to do there?
Our plan is, of course, to team up with existing company. We have already initiated some collaborations to look into low-cost design. How can we make this as cheap as possible? How could we potentially make something which relates to the wastewater treatment plants in that cost area? I think that's important to bring down the capex as low as possible.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, and good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, for our next company, the next company presenting is very relevant in these days, with the hospital wards being filled with patients, and which also require, of course, a lot of monitoring. The next digital health company is Ward 24/7.
Hello, my name is Bettina Langemark. I'm the CEO of Ward 24/7, and we are transforming the way patients are monitored in the hospitals. Now, we're not doing this because we fell in love with some fancy technology, but it's based on a deep frustration within our founders, 2 of which are hospital doctors, and they every day witness the consequences of how patients are monitored today. It's manual, it's labor-intensive, and it simply doesn't work. 30% of all patients experience unexpected critical events within the first month of hospitalization. The WHO estimates that post-surgical complications alone constitute the 3rd leading cause of death. And the root cause of this problem is the fact that we miss 95% of the vital sign warnings. And of course, the complications come with a huge price tag of prolonged hospital stays and an increased cost of care. So we are right now replacing manual monitoring with AI-enabled continuous wireless monitoring. And this is our solution. We have developed intelligent algorithms that translate simplistic vital signs into clinical situations that are potentially dangerous and clinically meaningful alerts, such as circulatory failure and respiratory distress. The other component are these intuitive interfaces that we co-created together with the nurses to simply tell them which patients are doing okay and which patients need their attention. The way that it works is that we take devices, wireless devices already on the market, and we place them on the patients. Now, as a standalone system, this doesn't work in the ward because they produce 70 to 90% false alarms. Our patentable product is substantially different, and because it only alerts staff's attention to patients who experience real clinical deterioration. Already from our clinical trials, we can see that when we implement Ward 24/7, it really does help prevent complications rather than treat complications. We can see that it helps hospital staff intervene more effectively, and we know that it also helps optimize the use of scarce resources. Our algorithms, they are continuously being validated in clinical trials, and the results we see are examples like this. So this is a woman in her 50s. She was undergoing a relatively uncomplicated colon resection. She was feeling fine after surgery, a little dizzy. But during day 2, she didn't really get any better. And at 2 p.m., a CT scan revealed that she had an anastomotic leak. Of course, this needed resurgery, and she was operated again in the evening. Now, when we go back into our data, we can actually see that already at 2 o'clock in the morning, the ward algorithms would have alerted the staff to a situation that needed attention. And most likely, this woman would have been operated 12 hours earlier. So we take a look at who else is doing this, and of course we know that manual monitoring is a situation that, or a player that doesn't work at all. We know that a lot of these simple monitoring device companies, they're coming on the market, but they have too many false alarms, and they are our collaborators, not our competitors. Other companies, they use AI to try to predict which patients are at risk, and this is super useful, but it's not going to be helpful in the ward, because in the ward we need to find out how the patients are doing right now. So the fact of the matter remains that nobody has developed predictive real-time algorithms. Of course, there are players that we watch carefully because we think they might be able to one day, but we are at TRL 7, and we are way ahead of them, and our solution is not that easy to copy. We base our company on a large academic project which was funded by the Innovation Foundation, Novo Nordisk, and the Danish Cancer Society. And right now we're actually running clinical trials in 4 out of 5 Danish regions, in part as part of the fight against corona. And during the fall, we will have another hundreds of patients with data to further validate and further develop our algorithms. Now, our company, we own the exclusive right to commercialize these algorithms. Next year, we'll continue talks with CROs and Pharma to use the technology in their clinical trials. In 2022, we expect to have the first commercial product on the market, and already in 2023, we'll be able to launch more advanced predictive algorithms. And later on, what we really want to do is, of course, bring hospital-grade monitoring into the patients' homes. So a brief look at market size and market potential. I only show this gigantic number, if the clicker would work, because I want to just get an indication of the size of the budget that we are trying to get a tiny cut of. The real business model will be around collaborating with as many device companies as possible, because we do need them as much as they need us. And no matter how we kind of try to not be over-ambitious and try to be a little modest, even if we only monitor 25% of all relevant beds at a 10% market share, and we only charge $10 per patient per day, it is difficult to get below peak sales estimates of $150 million. Now, there is a market entry opportunity around the corona pandemic, because here there is a huge need for remote monitoring. But in general, what we need to do is to go to the large academic hospitals that we know have prioritized AI and digital health investments. So how are we going to get on the market? Well, right now we are trying to raise money and doing the product development planning to quite some detail. Once we have the funding that we are looking for, we will build the quality system and develop the software according to regulatory standards. We would expect to be able to get the approvals that we need in 2022 and also run international pilot projects to support launch and develop more outcome data. All in all, we're looking at production and business development costs in between 1.5 and 2 million euros. And this is the team behind the invention. We have Helge, our CTO. He's associate professor at Danish Technical University, and he is an expert in artificial algorithms and biomedical algorithms. There is Christian and Eske. They are senior anesthesiologists and head of clinical research in 2 of Denmark's biggest hospitals. I have a background in pharma and biotech. I'm responsible for the commercial activities and business development. I joined this team last year because I fell in love with the way that they have created a very clever solution to a huge unmet need that I didn't even know existed. And I think they're leveraging very advanced technology in a unique way. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bettina.
Thank you very much.
That was a really nice presentation.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is there a risk that the nurses will be resistant towards the implementation of another alarm system, since it could also cause alarm fatigue for them, right? They have so many alarms going on.
It's such a good question. I think there is a graveyard of very, very advanced medical technology that actually didn't take your question into consideration, because we are intervening with the way nurses and the workflow is. And this is why, even for the clinical trials, we have insisted on co-creating the interfaces with the nurses. So side by side saying, how can this actually help nurses and not disturb them? But I think it's super important.
Thank you.
We also have some online questions here. One from Scott Hill. Can patient monitoring of corona patients be added to your system? Thermal scans, temperature readings, aerosol measurements, and so on.
Thank you so much for that question. Actually, what happened is that we were planning an RCT, and obviously you can't do a clinical trial in a pandemic situation like this. So we were very, very quickly able to roll out just a basic version of the algorithms, and it's literally being rolled out right now as part of the fight against corona. Later on, we will be adding different types of vital signs into the algorithms, but I think even with the basic we have right now, we can actually see, and hospitals agree, because they agreed to implement our solution to monitor corona patients.
Thank you very much. Do you want to do another?
Let's do another one online.
Sure.
Let me see. there's one thing here from Holtikelesi. How will the EU medical device regulation impact your go-to-market strategy?
Well, of course, we need to have CE approval, and I think what we're doing now is state-of-the-art academic research, and what we need to do, and what we're working together with regulatory advisors on, how do we install a quality system, and obviously program and develop the software according to CE standards. I think we will try to go actually both for CE and FDA approval, and we are on track for that.
Fantastic.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Our next presenter is a therapeutic company that is helping couples with infertility using a completely novel approach. This is FertilityPro.
Hi, I'm Martin Blomberg. I'm from FertilityPro, and we are developing a novel treatment option for male infertility. So most of us take it for granted that we can have the children we want to, whenever we want to. But the reality is that fertility issues are very common. Globally, 15% of all couples are infertile, and of course, the infertility can be due to a problem in the male, in the female, or it can be a combined problem. If you look more carefully into it, you'll see that the male is a contributing factor in about 50% of all cases, and he's the only problem in 30% of the cases. But if you look for treatment for male infertility, you have to search long, because the vast majority of cases cannot be treated by any medical treatment. Instead, we're treating the woman for male disease. And if you have mildly impaired fertility, you can sometimes use less expensive and milder treatments, such as insemination, where you simply inject the sperm into the uterus. But in many cases, you have to use the much more expensive and more invasive procedures, such as IVF, where you often treat the women for several months with hormones. You hyperstimulate the ovaries, and then you harvest the oocytes with invasive procedures. You fertilize them in vitro, and then you transfer them back. So what is the solution? So we believe the solution is an antibody that is currently used to treat osteoporosis, denosumab. We want to repurpose denosumab and use it as a novel treatment option for male infertility. So denosumab blocks a signaling pathway called RANKL. So RANKL is a signaling pathway that is very important in the bone for bone resorption. And when you block it with denosumab, it's a very effective treatment for osteoporosis. And as you can see here to the left, it's a very big cell. Amgen has done all the basic science. But this compound will run out of patent very shortly, and many other companies are coming with biosimilars. We have a very strong data packet, and we have a second medical use patent, so we want to use denosumab as a novel treatment option for male infertility. And in this way, we can spare the woman for unnecessary treatment and instead focus on the problem in the male by simply treating the male for male problem. All this is based on solid science, and we are the first to show that this RANKL signaling pathway also is present in the testicles. And it's not only present in the human testicles, as shown here, it's present in the testicles from many, many species, including mouse testes. And we tested the effects of inhibiting RANKL simply by injecting a RANKL inhibitor, as shown here, OPG. We injected this into mice, and then we could see that they had an increase in testicular weight and in sperm production. But you can also show this in a different way. You can simply show it by removing RANKL genetically. And when you remove RANKL genetically, either exclusively in the testicles or in all cells in the mouse body, then you will again see an increase in sperm production, as shown below. And this increase in sperm production translates into an increased pregnancy rate, which implies that these mice have an increased male fertility potential. But of course, this is only in mice. What happens in humans? So we wanted to investigate this by using human testicular tissue. We cultured it in the lab, and we exposed it to two different RANKL inhibitors, denosumab and OPG. And when you expose it to them, you can see that the number of cells undergoing programmed cell deaths were lower when we were treating them with these RANKL inhibitors, which again would result in an increased sperm output. So we proceeded to test this in real patients. So we injected one single dose of denosumab into 12 men with severely impaired fertility. And what you see here on the left is that we saw an increase in testicular function, here visualized by a reproductive hormone, inhibin B on the left. But this increase in testicular function would only translate into an increase in sperm production in a subset of the men. So 60% of the men had a tremendous increase in the total number of motile sperm, but you also found some men who actually had a reduced number of total motile sperm. This implies that you have a group of poor responders and good responders. Fortunately, we were able to identify a marker that could predict the poor or distinguish the poor from the good responders, and we have now patented this as a companion diagnostic that can help us to identify the men that actually will benefit from the treatment. We are very aware that this is a very small cohort, so we have now completed a randomized clinical trial where we have tested denosumab versus placebo in almost 100 infertile males, and we are unblinding these data right now. And of course, we are very interested because here we are not only looking in sperm production, but we are also looking in hardcore endpoints, pregnancies, and live babies. So what about the business here? Yeah, our estimate is that we will have an addressable patient population of around 550,000 men in US, EU, and China. And we are very aware that this market size may be the mature market size, and the more basic market size would be equivalent to the penetration of IVF, which will be around 130,000 in these three regions. But as you can see on the right side, you can see that this market grows day by day, so this market will grow also in the future. So what are the next steps? If you want to make it into a business, you have to have control of the molecule. And we have, with the help of BII, had very fruitful negotiations with 2 biosimilar companies, and we hope to settle a deal with them in the months to come. And this will enable us to do a dosing study where we can reformulate and use a lower dose for our indication, and then subsequently establish a stronger and broader partnership, not only with the developer of the biosimilar, but with some of the pharmaceutical companies where we have some very constructive talks at this moment. Because, as you can see, we are scientists, we are experts in reproduction, and we have had a tremendous help from key opinion leaders from both US and Denmark in our development. But we ask for a pre-seed grant, which will enable us, first of all, to complete a license deal with one of the 2 biosimilar companies, but also to establish a new owner structure in our small company. Then we'll conduct a similarity study with the new biosimilar and hopefully be able to obtain sufficient funding to conduct the dosing study. Because what we want is not just to increase sperm production, we want to provide solutions for building families by developing a new treatment option for male infertility. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martin. Super interesting project and fantastic to see you here. You mentioned that you were in your first-in-class treatment for male fertility. How receptive do you think the market is to a solution like this?
Yeah, you're right that you don't have any medical treat right now, and I wish I could say that we could keep all the gynecologists out of work, but that would be a completely unrealistic approach. Of course, we will not be able to help the men with very, very severe infertility. They will still need ICSI and so on. But we think that we can actually make fertility treatment available for many, many more people, because IVF and so on they are very expensive. So we believe that there will be a market right from the start, and of course, in time, we think it can be more and more mature.
Cool.
Makes sense. We have a question here from Georgina that asks, what percentage of male infertility can be addressed with your antibody? Because, for example, not all fertility in men is caused by low sperm counts.
That's right. And the interesting part here, and that's a very good question, is that we all the time say that low sperm numbers is the only thing. So the interesting point here is that one thing is that sperm number increase, we can actually see that the motility of the sperm also increases when you use this compound, which indicates that the sperm function is increasing. So in reality, you could close your eyes and not look at the sperm. If you had 400% more pregnancies, that would be the best proof. And so, of course, when we look at the randomized clinical trial, what we are hoping to see is babies, because you can't argue with that.
You can, but yeah, sure.
Can I?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so we have a question from Keld, and he's asking, what do you believe is the scientific reason for having non-responders in the small clinical study?
Yeah, so I think the scientific reason for not having that is if you have a car and it's from 1998, it's maybe not advisable to put a turbo on it because it may not drive the whole way. And I think you can put the same into the testicles. If you have a very poor testicular function and we are putting the full speed on it with denosumab, because this is really what we are doing. We believe we're putting more speed into the production of sperm, then it will be a devastating effect. So what we have to find is the men that has the potential but are not really fulfilling this potential. That's the idea, and that's what we hope to see in the randomized clinical trial, that we can identify this subpopulation very precisely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can I?
Yeah.
Do you have one? Do you
I have one more.
You go for it.
So I have a question here on how do you administer the treatment?
Yeah, so it's very simple. So right now you give one injection and then the injection lasts for 6 months. Okay. But of course, this is the current dose. And this dose was developed and optimized for osteoporosis. And why should it be the exact same dose for male infertility? It will probably not be. So we believe that you can lower the dose substantially, have less side effects, and then you maybe have to repeat the dose every second or third month. So, but you can give a subcutaneous injection, and it will not be a daily injection or anything. So it's a really smart device, especially for men.
Yeah, especially since you don't have to then keep giving injections to the women.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah.
Should we go?
No more.
Do you have any more?
No.
Then let's take the last one. So maybe talking about the company as such. So what type of competencies do you need to take your team to the next level?
Yeah, so we are, you could say, we are a recently founded company, and as you can see, we are scientists, and we have had a tremendous help here from BII, so we obviously need people with business experience and business development, and of course, pharma development experience. And we are looking for this, so our hope is that we can attract the funding that will enable us to simply create a new leadership structure in the company where we get these competences into the company, so we can do what we are best at, the science, and let other people do and help us by bringing this forward.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Martin, and thanks. A good presentation. Well done. Yeah, so now you've seen the first 3 pitches of today's cohort. In order for you guys at home to just have a little break, we would actually like to show you a little bit of one of the programs that we have open right now. It's the pre-seed program, and we have a little video to take you through what it actually is.
Are you a new startup? Or maybe you are doing innovative research at your university or research institution that you want to spin out? With a pre-seed program from Bioinnovation Institute, we support entrepreneurial-minded researchers in taking the next steps. By offering our knowledge, network, new facilities, and up to 3.5 million Danish kroner in funding, we can help bring life science within therapeutics, bioindustrials, or medical technologies closer to the market. The pre-seed program has a strong technical focus with commercial support to accelerate the scientific maturity of the research to attract further investments from the life science ecosystem. The program has 2 different tracks, which both last 18 months. 1 track for research projects and 1 for startups. The track for research projects offers a completely equity-free grant to support researchers at their current university or research institution. And the startup track offers a unique founder-friendly convertible loan. Join the pre-seed program and bring your science out of the lab and into the market for the benefit of people and society. Get in touch and apply on our website.
We are super excited to see many incredible applications here. The deadline is the 4th of June, so next week. So if you haven't started, please come and apply for a pre-seed grant. We're gonna do a short break of 5 minutes, and then we'll be back with the second part of the program. So we will have a short countdown now. It's 5 minutes, so see you on the other side. Hi, everybody, and welcome back. Hope you had a cup of coffee or had a little bio break or whatever. Moving on in the program, the next company we have is a stem cell company spinning out of Karolinska Institute in Sweden. We managed to get Lilian across the border yesterday, so today she's here. Boost Pharma is fighting an orphan disease, that currently has no treatment. So, without further ado, here is Boost Pharma.
This is what we want our children to be, right? Happy, healthy, running around, playing. Unfortunately, though, that does not always happen. Sometimes our children are hit with devastating diseases. And one of these diseases is brittle bone disease, or osteogenesis imperfecta. Brittle bone disease is due to mutations in the collagen gene, and it causes hundreds of fractures throughout the person's lifetime. And it is actually often diagnosed even before birth at the routine ultrasound mid-pregnancy, where you can already then see the fractures in the unborn babies. And you can imagine, of course, the pain that comes with being born with fractures already. It also causes extreme bone deformities, as you can see from the X-rays on the picture here, and extreme body shortness, among other things. There is currently no cure, and there is no effective treatment. So, we at Boost Pharma, we want to change that, and we aim at treating brittle bone disease. So we have developed Boost cells, and Boost cells are bone-forming fetal mesenchymal stem cells. They are an advanced therapy medicinal product, or an ATMP, and they are allogeneic, cryopreserved, off-the-shelf product. So the Boost cells are infused into the patient's circulation, where they migrate to the bones, they engraft, and they start forming bone. And this results in fewer fractures, less pain, and stronger bones. So in mice models, it has been shown that the fracture frequency can be reduced with up to 71%, and there is also a significant increase in bone strength, thickness, and length. We have so far treated 4 patients, 4 children, and I want to present to you Olivia. She's now 18 years old, and she has received 5 Boost cell treatments. One of those was before she was born. Olivia has shown increased lengthwise growth. She had no fractures 2 years after the treatment, improved quality of life, better ability to walk, and minimal pain. And we have learned from treating these patients that we want to treat early before too much damage has occurred to the bones. And we also need to do maintenance treatment, and we aim for treating 2 to 3 times per year. And we also want to treat up to 15 years of age while the child is still growing. And Boost cell treatment actually matters. One child with the same mutation as Olivia and that did not get stem cell treatment had 15 fractures during his short 5 months lifetime before he succumbed to the disease. But I want also to point out now that most children don't die from this disease, but this was a very severe mutation. So Boost cells matter. Regarding the company, we have also established an approved method of manufacturing of the cells. We have 2 clinical trials ongoing, one in Europe, supported by a Horizon 2020 grant, and one study in India. And we have also formed Boost Pharma in order to be able to reach out and treat more patients than we would be able to do in the academic setting that we have currently been working in. So we believe that the Boost cells is a good business case, actually. Osteogenesis imperfecta affects fewer than 60,000 people in the US and Europe together. And new drugs are eligible for orphan drug designation. And that gives, among other positive things, a market exclusivity for 7 to 10 years. There's also potential in the patient. There are 1,000 children per year born with the disease worldwide. They have, as I said before, next to normal, at least, life expectancy. They pose a huge cost for the society and for the healthcare system. And there is a great interest from patients, patient organizations, and from the healthcare sector. We have done a market comparison, and drugs in development have little overlap with Boost's intended indication. And when it comes to pricing, cell and gene therapies have considerable pricing power, especially the drugs with orphan designation. And there is an inverse relationship between price and volume of patients for orphan drugs. So we truly believe that this is a good business case, and we also think that the Boost cells can create a brighter future for children with osteogenesis imperfecta or brittle bone disease. Regarding the future of Boost Pharma, we aim to file for orphan designation as soon as possible. We also are expecting data from the clinical trials, and from that we will take further decisions on further clinical trials, of course. We need to establish partnership with business partners, and we aim for an exit at around 2025 to 2026. The team behind Boost is an academic group at KI in Stockholm, Sweden, as Christian pointed out. And it consists of 3 founders, myself, Lilian Walter-Jallow, that has been working with stem cell therapy since 2006. And especially then cell therapies. Cecilia Götterström is the PI of the academic group, and she has 20 years of experience with the science behind mesenchymal stem cells. Magnus Westgren is a senior professor and an obstetrician, and he has actually performed the prenatal infusions of the unborn babies. And Favas Abomare is our research scientist. So we in Boost Pharma, we would like to ask you to team up with us with your competences, with your money if possible, because we really believe that we can treat the untreatable. We believe that we can make the future brighter, healthier, and happier for children with osteogenesis imperfecta. Thank you.
Thank you, Lilian.
Thank you so much.
It's very encouraging to see already the results you already have with some of the children. Is the treatment primarily for children, or can adults benefit as well?
I mean, we have not so far treated grown-ups, and we believe that it's better, the effect will be better before the damage has occurred, as I pointed out in the pitch. That is not to say that adults cannot benefit from it, but we think it is better to treat growing tissue.
Thank you.
We also have some questions coming in online here. We have one from Stefan Kriskau. Is your GMP stem cell production compatible to supply to all EU and US patients?
So right now we are looking into upscaling of the process. And of course, when you scale up a cell therapy, that comes with a lot of regulatory and CMC strategic decisions, of course. You need to keep in mind that you don't do changes so that you change the product, because they say that the process is the product when it comes to cell therapies. The capacity, currently we culture the cells at Vecura at Karolinska Hospital with quite a high capacity, and for the clinical trials and possibly also for treating like a reasonable amount, maybe not worldwide, but like the European population, we would be capable of doing that right now. But of course, if we look wider and larger, then we have to look for probably a larger capacity.
Yeah, we have another one.
Sure.
This is from Nicolo. Can you comment on safety of this approach?
Of course, I mean, we have been scrutinized by the authorities. You can imagine that, because usually you go for the grown-up population when you do a clinical trial, then you go to the pediatric population. But we start by saying that, oh, we want bravely to treat the unborn children. So, I mean, we have been asked to do a lot of safety control on the cells, and we have done everything that we can and a little bit more than that, I would say, to be able to go as far as to have the permission to treat small and unborn children. We believe that it is safe, and we have no indications that it wouldn't be.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a really good story. And our next company is a digital health company that is helping Parkinson's patients get better treatments. This is Paragit Solutions.
Hi, my name is Lee.
My name is Mohammed.
We're Paragit Solutions, and we're developing assessment tool for Parkinson's disease motor symptoms. A little bit background about how the idea came to life. It's a challenge hosted by DTU Skylab in collaboration with Lundbeck, where Lundbeck had this problem of how to assess movement abnormalities within Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease affects 7 to 10 million people worldwide. Let that number sink in. This number alone exceeds the very population of Denmark. Parkinson's disease is also the second most common neurological disorder, right after Alzheimer's. Taking a look at the world map, we have 1.2 million patients within Europe, and the economical burden associated with the disease are well over billions. And it gets worse. Fast forward 20 years, in 2040, all these numbers in both patient numbers as well as economical burden are expected to be doubled and even tripling in areas like China. Now, within Parkinson's disease, there's this problematic situation where Parkinson's disease is currently determined based on the doctor's subjective assessment. This means that different doctors can assess the same patient differently. This leads to a couple of problems. Firstly, Parkinson's disease has a 47% of misdiagnosed rate. Secondly, patient often gets late diagnosed, where the patient would have lost up to 70% of their dopamine neurons before getting the official assessment of Parkinson's disease. Thirdly, due to the subjective assessment of the doctors, it is really hard to prescribe the exact dosage of medicine for the patient. Matter of fact, we know that this problem is as big as 90% of all Parkinson's patients in Denmark are taking the wrong dosage of medicine at the wrong time. To sum it all up, this is all due to the unmet need of the lack of objective and quantified assessment method for Parkinson's disease. We think at Paragit Solutions, we have a solution for this. Introducing Paragit software and Paragit sleeve.
Well, the procedure is very simple. You simply hand out the sleeve to the Parkinson's patient, and they will go home while crucial data are collected. The data will be stored into our safe internet cloud that will be accessed by our clinicians to further provide a better medication care for the Parkinson's patient.
So, to sum it all up, we have designed this non-stigmatizing and non-invasive sleeve, which has the capability of capturing the most important cardinal motor symptoms of Parkinson's disease, being tremor, which affects 75% of all Parkinson's patients, bradykinesia, which affects 90% of all patients, as well as, and most importantly, muscle rigidity, which affects 99% of all patients. Now, muscle rigidity is especially important because it is the first motor symptoms to be developed within Parkinson's disease. And also, both tremor and bradykinesia are only accompanying symptoms of muscle rigidity. Now, we put all this valuable data into our simple-to-use software, which easily visualizes the symptom progression of the disease.
Well, it all sounds very interesting, but does it actually work? So we made a collaboration with Parkinson's Association in order to do an in vivo testing, proving that our hardware and software are able to detect the cardinal symptoms. In that regards, we can see the blue signal represents the shakiness of the forearm that our algorithm have been able to detect as a red box with an accuracy of 87%. We did the same thing for bradykinesia, testing out with real Parkinson's patient. In that regards, we asked the volunteers to drink from a glass of water and record the mobility of hand, the range of rotation of hand, which translate into the activity of hand. In that regards, we were able to quantify and detect that our control patient had an average of 100% compared to the Parkinson's patient that had an average of 60%. Well, we really want to share the muscle rigidity because that's the only solution on the market. In that regards, we asked the volunteers to do a maximum muscle contraction for 10 seconds and then resting for the rest of the duration. In that regards, we took the ratio between the maximum and the resting, and we could see an increase muscle activity for the Parkinson's patient compared to the control. So we made a comparative landscape analysis to see what exists on the market. And it ranges from a smartphone to a smartwatch to a hand wrist that can only quantify the physical, the mechanical movements, such as the tremor and bradykinesia. But none of them have been able to quantify the muscle rigidity, which is the symptom that occurs in the beginning of Parkinson's. In that regards, combining all the three cardinal symptoms together, we are able to do dosage monitoring and hopefully in the future early detection utilizing AI. So from idea to execution, we started back in 2018 where we made our first proof of concept, then made several iterations of the sleeve afterwards. This made it possible for us to gain a lot of traction by winning several competitions worldwide in Silicon Valley and in Denmark. And we got a lot of articles written about us. This made it possible for us to be part of BIA program, where we then got investors' interest from several ones, as well as soft-funded granted. And that made it possible for us to file 2 patents, as well as finalizing the final sleeve. The development plan for 2020 is that we have our final design lock for the Paragit sleeve. We also have our 2 patents ready, and we aim to do a development of 5 Paragit sleeves. This will be partly soft-funded. This will be used to do a technological validation of our IP that we have developed in collaboration with Parkinson's Association, Bispebjerg Hospital, and Glostrup Hospital. This will further make it possible to do a collaboration or partnership with customers, such as the Lundbeck that have approached us in the beginning, to do help them assist them in their clinical trials, and hopefully generate a revenue through a data feed during the clinical trials. Afterwards, we'll be ready for a market expansion, targeting MDR for the European and FDA for the US market, hopefully to increase our target, such as the consumers and governmental institutions, through a web report licensing. This will be done partly soft-funded and investment. We couldn't have done this without the right team, covering all the aspects of the technological development of the sleeve, pushing the technological boundaries to its limits, ranking from several universities. My name is Mohammed Filfil. I'm the founder and CEO of Paragit Solutions, and we are seeking talented people to help us shaping the new tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Great presentation.
Thank you very much.
So maybe the first question to dive into here. So you've shown many different iterations of your sleeve. What is the most significant change you have made?
So we have identified the 2 major issues with in-home monitoring, especially when doing muscle activity measuring. That is sweat and also movement artifacts. That's something that hadn't been solved before, and we had to do different iterations of the sleeve in order to find the perfect solution for that.
Thank you. We have a question here from Chris that is asking, if there is currently no objective assessment measure, how can you determine that 90% are incorrectly dosed?
This is based on a research done by Parkinson Forening, where we're looking at how much medicine the patient are taking and how much side effects are coming on. And a lot of the common phenomenon within Parkinson's disease is they get over-medicated or under-medicated. And this is how they determine, because when over-medicating, there are new symptoms that appear within the Parkinson's patient. And when under-medicating, the medication just simply don't work. So that's how it's determined.
Thank you. We have another question here from Sten Skybu, who is asking, what is holding you back from accelerating development? 3-4 years is too long time.
It's more or less attracting new team members, as well as just finalizing the sleeves, and we have done that now, and we're ready to do a beta testing of the new IP technologies. The issues was in the beginning to identify the issues that was with in-home monitoring, but that's what we have identified now, and we're ready to push it and scale it very fast. So, of course, attracting new talent people will help us accelerate even further.
And last question here from Stefan Christgau. Would your sleeve have other clinical applications other than Parkinson's disease?
Yeah, our product actually have a wide applicable range within movement disorders as a whole. So this ranges from epilepsy to ALS to Huntington. So actually anything within movement that can be taken with our sleeve, it is applicable.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we are down to the last presenter, not the least. This is a more colorful case. So we have a company who's fermenting a more sustainable and better performing colorant. I think let's just go for it. Here is Chromologics.
Hi, my name is Garrett Torborg and I am the CEO of Chromologics. And I'm here today to tell you how we from Chromologics are going to revolutionize the world of food colorants. So we from Chromologics want to produce natural food colorants in a more sustainable way. And we want to do that with the help of biotechnology. So instead of using precious raw materials like fruits, vegetables, or even insects, we want to take the production for natural colorants and put it in the lab, and thereby be the first movers of introducing lab-grown food colorants to the food supply chain. But what's the problem with the current natural food colorants? So one big challenge is their performance. That can be associated with the stability of the colorant, with the quality of the colorant, or with problems along the value chain linked to seasonal variation. Another challenge is the consumer expectations. So today, it's not just enough for a colorant to be natural, it should also comply with very specific consumer demands, like sustainability, vegan, or kosher and halal diets. And currently, in the red color space, there's no colorant that can fulfill the two demands. But now, we from Chromologics, we're introducing a colorant that can score in both categories. But how are we going to do that? So it all starts with the fungal colony. So we're having a wild-type filamentous fungus that naturally produce a variety of different pigments ranging from orange to yellow and red. When we take this fungus and put it in a bioreactor, and then we run a proprietary fermentation process, this fungus secretes a red colorant out into the media. Then all we have to do is harvest the colorant with some simple downstream processing steps, and we end up with a nice red colorant in our hand that we named Chroma Red. How does Chroma Red then perform in comparison with other red natural food colorants on the market? So if we look at two parameters, the performance, heat stability, and the consumer expectations with focus on vegan and halal diets, and we look at the two main competitors. The first one is carmine, which is extracted from insects. Carmine has really good stability, but fails completely in meeting the consumer expectations. The other red colorant on the market is betaine, which is extracted from beetroot. Betaine is not really temperature stable, but it's nice and vegan and halal. But now, Chroma Red scores greatly on both categories. And on top of that, we can offer it at a more cost-competitive price. So, by offering sustainable and natural colorants to the food market, we believe we can make the world a little bit better. And because our colorants are both vegan and heat stable, we can also make its burgers a little bit better. But how does the market look that we want to address? So globally, the natural food colorants market is 2 billion euros. More than 50% of these natural colorants are red, so this is a really interesting segment to go into. The two candidates I introduced earlier, carmine and betaine, take up 75% of that red market space. Two other interesting facts to know is that in a customer survey, more than 75% of US customers are willing to pay more for products when they contain natural colorants. Also interesting, the plant-based meat market, which is a very promising segment for Chroma application and will be our beachhead market, is growing with 18.5% annually at the moment. So Chromologics will be a business-to-business company where we sell our food colorant to either food manufacturing companies or color houses. We can generate revenue in two ways. We can become a fully integrated company where production is carried out by a CMO, or we can have our revenue on a royalty basis where we license out the right for sales and production of Chroma to a partner and focus on research and development of new colorants. We expect to enter the market with our first colorant Chroma by 2023 after regulatory approval, and then 10 years into the market, we think we can capture 12% of the market share of betaine and carmine, which translates into an annual revenue of 90 million euros. But we have big dreams about our technology and think we can scale it into different segments and different geographies. So we want to start by introducing Chroma to the food colorant market, the pet food market, and the food packaging market in both Europe and the US. Afterwards, we want to scale it into beverages. And after additional approval, we also want to introduce it to the cosmetic market. But we won't stop there. Because our cell factory can also produce other colorants, we can add more colorants to our portfolio, which brings us to an overall market opportunity for our technology of 4 billion euros. So what have we achieved until now? We have demonstrated our technology already in pilot scale in 50-liter bioreactors. We also have our IP in place, which we licensed from the Technical University of Denmark. This IP just went international phase last year. Over the last 3 years, Chromologics raised more than 800,000 euros in soft funding, which we use to finance our research and our development. And Chroma has been validated by several color houses and food manufacturing companies that confirmed its great performance. Here at the BII company, we could identify an additional IP opportunity, and we're preparing the application right now. Also, we could identify our beachhead market, which allows us to have very specific and straightforward go-to-market strategy, and we improved our corporate identity and our branding. That is the team behind the color revolution. Chromologics has 5 co-founders, of which 2 work full-time in the company, and then we have Louise, who's our fermentation scientist. If you think this is interesting, you can become a partner. We're currently looking for companies engaged in the meat substitute market for application testing of Chroma. If you're an investor and you also think that's interesting, it's really good timing, because currently we're fundraising for our seed investment, where we have 3 major goals. We want to increase our yields, we want to start executing the regulatory approval, and we want to advance the project more on the commercial level. The term sheet for that seed round is signed, but the round remains open for 4 more months. So please come and reach out to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kat.
That was very nice. Very colorful.
Thank you.
So could you talk about your future plans for other colors other than Chroma Red?
Yes. So our cell factory, beyond red, also produces yellow and orange, and that's something we definitely want to tap into the future. So we have proof of concept that we can make orange, but due to limited resources, we couldn't explore that any further. And then the long-term vision, we also dream of making purple, but that will most likely be with the help of genetic engineering, whereas the other colorants we could obtain naturally.
Cool. Should we take a question from online? So we have a question. What will be the impact of the existing market? Can you justify a premium price?
Interesting question. I think we can really offer a colorant that is better than the solutions that are on the market, because we're offering something that is vegan and compliant with kosher and halal diets, and temperature stable and pH stable. And that is something that's not there yet, because carmine, who is the leading colorant in terms of performance, has a really pure consumer reputation and cannot reach these user demographics that we could reach with our solution.
Good answer. We have one question from Maj-Britt Larsen. How does Chroma compare to carmine produced by fermentation?
Good question also. I think carmine can also be produced by fermentation. There's some proof of concept in some academic projects. It's not scaled into industrial scale yet. That would of course be GMO because they're taking the pathway out of the original organism and putting it into in a fungal or like a yeast host, I don't know. We don't have that. So we're really just tapping into the potential of nature and using that for the production of food colorants.
Very good. Should we take
Any
one
more?
last minute? Yeah, there's a lot of people are coming in here. So we have one from Stefan here. So what is your patent strategy to secure protection of platform as well as individual products?
That's a good question. So, of course, we have one patent which covers the production of the pigments, and that's something we filed with the university. And now, with extra resources coming in, we will kind of work on the satellite patent strategy and add on patents to secure our invention. And we have one patent in the pipeline, which we'll file very soon. That is more on the formulation, on the production side of ChromoWet, but we have a lot of different ideas on how to patent and to protect us.
Very good. Maybe a related question that just came, if you could elaborate on the IP. So is the IP owned by DTU or you?
Yes, the IP is still owned by DTU, but we're having an exclusive licensing agreement with DTU with buyout option as well. So we also believe when continuing the project and starting to get revenue, we'll definitely buy out the IP and own it ourselves.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
So, and you can still become an investor.
Oh.
So the seed round.
That's really important to say, yes.
Thank you so much, Gerd. Very good. Now we are done with the 6 companies, and now we want you to help us find the this year's winner of and basically winning the Acceleration Award. The way you vote is basically to use your phone and send a text to the number 1245. As you can see on the screen, you basically write DemoDay space and then the short version of the company's name that you like. So you can vote for SecondCircle, War 24/7, FertilityPro, Boost Pharma, Paragit Solutions, and Chromologics, of course. It will be a quite short voting, so you only have basically a few minutes. But in the meantime,
5 minutes. So while you're voting, we have invited last round's winner to let us know a little bit of what they've been up to. This was Mediquant, who is a 1-year-old spin-out from Aarhus University and is developing rapid point-of-care quantification for small molecule drugs. They are focusing on the unmet need of anticoagulant measurements in the emergency. And if you want to have a little taste of what went down last demo day, here's a little video.
I think that Mediquant is going to win.
We think that Mediquant will be the winners.
I think Mediquant has a very good chance of winning because they have a very good pitch and presentation.
They have this amazing case.
They have had a real progression.
I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm feeling great. And I'm super excited to show everyone what we've been working on and to show our progress.
Mediquant is a platform technology, but the team has also very clear initial business case with anticoagulants, and I think this is what investors like to hear.
And the winner is Mediquant.
Excited.
Very, very happy.
Yes. It was unexpected. We did our very best, and I think there was a lot of good pitches in there, and we're quite happy that we were selected to be a little bit better than the others.
To be a part of the BII has been of tremendous importance for Mediquant. We come from academia, so we don't know very much about all the other things that we need to develop a company.
Having Mediquant winning this competition today is a big milestone, and maybe it will raise some awareness and attract more investors for medtech.
Thank you for being here, Line, Malte, and congratulations again. I will say it was not unexpected. Someone called it out there. Thanks again for being here. You have a very classic startup story startup coming out of academia. You both worked with your technology for 5 years during your PhDs, and then together with your professor, Kurt Korthelf, you formed a company so you could be part of our Business Accelerator Academy program, and then you go on to win the Acceleration Award.
Yes.
What has the BAA meant for you and for Mediquant?
Yeah, so as we just saw, we come from academia. So going into the program, we really had the technology in focus, but we quickly learned that there are so many other things that goes into building a company and maturing the business case. So that's really something that we learned during the program, how to go from proof of concept to launch and all the different things in between that. And one of the other things is also that BI has such a huge network, and we didn't really have any network on the business side. So we were introduced to so many great people during the program that had some feedback and really helped us mature our case. And
that's great to hear.
Yes.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah. And actually, some of those people are also still associated with Mediquant as advisors and mentors. So that's really great.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And what has happened in the 6 months since you graduated in November last year? Yeah.
So we managed to secure an InnoBooster, which we got earlier this year, and that helps us to spin out from the university, and now we have our offices at an entrepreneurial setting in Aarhus. And then as a startup, you're always fundraising. So we have been continuing the dialogue
Look
with
into the camera, say that.
always fundraising. But then we have been continuing the dialogue with investors in Denmark and abroad, and also with clinicians. Lately, the NIHR in the UK, and we have progress in the process of getting in collaboration to do clinical studies. And then the corona hit, so that has an impact on the practicalities. But we are pulling through.
Oh, that's great to hear. I mean, we keep hearing stories of startups being completely stuck with corona. It's great to hear a story of someone who's past that now, who you can keep going.
Yeah.
And talking about keep going, what does the future look like for Mediquant?
Yeah, so there are still, of course, a lot of activities lying ahead of us. Some of them are a lot of technological maturation of the companies, such as taking care of scalability and being able to produce our reagents in a cheap and time-efficient manner. And in the future, we're also looking to expand the competencies within our team for some of the headline activities.
So who are you looking for?
That would be someone who knows really the regulatory side of it, the clinical phase, and the commercialization side. That is not really our strong suit right now. So
you're like FertilityPro. Keep me in the science side.
Yeah, and so we are also really starting to look into having strategic partnerships as well, because it's such a crowded field within the medtech field. So we really want to partner up with some of the bigger players within the field to get our technology out to the hospitals to really benefit the patients.
That's great.
And
Sounds like a great plan.
And then we have been working on some exciting stuff that we hope to be able to share with you soon.
Yes.
Ooh, secrets. That sounds really, really exciting. Thank you so much for being here today. Christian, I cannot wait any longer. Please tell us who won this round
I can't
of
wait.
BAA.
I can't wait either. Thank you so much, and fantastic to see you guys. I would like all the companies to come on the stage right now, so we can reveal who is the final winner. So please welcome back everybody. I don't even know who won, so I'm waiting for it.
Let me go to this
Guys, everybody did an amazing job, and it's been fantastic working with you virtually for the past couple of months.
Yes.
It's been really great. I need the winner, otherwise it's going to be difficult to conduct. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Ready.
So are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Are you guys ready?
Okay. So the winner with tons of votes is Chromologics.
You won the Academy
Here we go.
Award. And this is all for you.
That is a confetti cannon.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much for joining.
Hi, come in here.
We're happy that you joined in.
Join.
We're gonna do more of these events. If you are interested, go check out the website to find the startups. Please follow us on social media. Otherwise, you
no, we're just
sign up for our newsletters and then
you're just saying goodbye.
we'll
We're just
soon.
talking to you and saying congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Congrats, everyone, though. You did great.